Statio ad Sanctum Laurentium in Lucina. The Lenten pilgrimage of the Roman Church today brings us, the faithful, to San Lorenzo in Lucina, one of the most ancient parish churches of Rome and among the earliest tituli that formed the pastoral heart of the primitive Christian community. Hidden amid the busy streets near the ancient Via Lata, the basilica stands as a quiet witness to the endurance of the Church through centuries of persecution, renewal, and devotion. The name Lucina recalls the noble Roman matron who, according to early tradition, placed her home at the service of the Church during the time of the persecutions. From her generosity emerged the titulus Lucinae, a place where Christians could assemble for worship when public churches were still rare and the faith was often practiced under the shadow of danger. Lucina herself is remembered in the hagiographical tradition as a woman devoted to the martyrs, caring for their burial and honouring their memory. Whether one woman or several bearing the same name, the tradition expresses a profound truth. The Church in Rome was sustained not only by heroic martyrs, but also by the quiet fidelity of believers who sheltered and served them. The basilica that pilgrims encounter today has grown through the centuries from that humble beginning. The original oratory of the 4th century was expanded into a larger church in the 5th century, reflecting the growing confidence of Christianity in the imperial capital. When Rome suffered devastation in 1084 during the invasion of Robert Guiscard, the church was rebuilt by Pope Paschal II, whose reconstruction left the elegant Romanesque campanile that still rises beside the basilica. The facade and portico retain the austere dignity characteristic of medieval Roman architecture, while the interior bears the marks of later centuries that enriched the church with chapels, monuments, and works of art. Within the basilica, the pilgrim encounters several treasures that unite art with devotion. Above the high altar hangs the powerful Crucifixion by Guido Reni, a masterpiece whose restrained serenity invites contemplation of the mystery of Christ's sacrifice. In another chapel, the genius of Bernini appears in the monument of Gabriele Fonseca, physician to Pope Innocent X, whose expressive marble bust seems almost to breathe with life. These works remind the visitor that the Church of Rome has long been a meeting place of faith and artistic genius, where beauty becomes a form of prayer. Yet the most moving object within the basilica is found in the chapel to the right, a relic of the gridiron upon which St. Lawrence suffered martyrdom. Placed beneath the altar by Pope Celestine III, this fragment of iron has become one of the most tangible reminders of the heroic age of the Roman Church. It was upon such an instrument that St. Lawrence, Archdeacon of Rome under Pope Sixtus II, was condemned to die during the persecution of the Emperor Valerian in the 3rd century. Lawrence had been entrusted with the Church's charitable treasury and the care of the poor. When the Roman prefect demanded the treasures of the Church, the deacon gathered the poor, the widows, and the sick, whom the Church supported, and presented them with fearless simplicity, declaring that these were the true treasures of the Church. For this bold confession he was condemned to death. The ancient tradition recounts that even as he suffered on the gridiron, he bore his torment with remarkable serenity, strengthening the faith of those who witnessed his martyrdom. For the Lenten pilgrim, the presence of this relic transforms the basilica into more than a historical monument. It becomes a place where the witness of the martyrs is still tangible. The iron grid that once symbolized cruelty and death now proclaims the triumph of faith, reminding the faithful that the courage of the martyrs flowed from their union with Christ. Architecture, art, and relic all converge here to draw the pilgrim into contemplation. The austere medieval structure speaks of the endurance of the Church through the centuries of upheaval. The masterpieces of Reni and Bernini reveal how the Christian imagination has sought to express divine truths through beauty. Above all, the relic of St. Lawrence testifies to the cost of discipleship in the early Church and to the glory that follows faithful witness. Thus the pilgrim who stands within San Lorenzo in Lucina finds himself surrounded by the memory of centuries of faith. The house once offered by Lucina to shelter Christians has become a basilica that shelters the memory of a martyr. The iron that once burned the flesh of Lawrence now burns within the heart as a reminder that the treasures of the Church are not gold or marble, but the faith, charity, and courage of those who follow Christ. In the stillness of this ancient Roman basilica, the stational pilgrim is invited to remember that the same faith which sustained the martyrs must also sustain the Church today.